Welcome and thank you for listening to the Sales Maven Show. I'm your host, Nikki Rausch. I am your own personal sales maven here to offer you tips and strategies and techniques to truly master your sales conversations. Today is an on air coaching call. That means one of our brilliant, amazing Sales Maven Society members is here to ask a question of me, and I'm going to coach through that. You get to be the observer, which is usually a nice place to be, and think about if I was asking Nikki that question and she gave me that answer, what would I do with it? And or some other thing that comes to mind for you. Today's guest, I'm so excited and kind of in love. Very soon, she's a newer member to the Sales Maven Society, but she is just so full of light and just an amazing person and amazing what she's doing with her business. So I want to welcome to the show Eleonora. And I said I was going to try to say her last name, but I really hate butchering last names. So, Eleonora, will you say your full name for the
Of
audience and
course.
welcome?
Of course. So thank you for having me. I'm sorry, it's quite a mouthful. So it's Cervellera. So need to,
Cervellera. It's so
yeah,
beautiful.
perfect.
Oh,
Perfect.
she's being
It's
kind to
a,
me. She's
it's,
had to coach me already, and I'm like so nervous to butcher her last name because it's so beautiful.
it's perfect. Thank
Well,
you.
I'm
Thank you
happy
for
you're
having me.
here. Tell everybody a little bit about you, where you're located, and what your business is and who you serve. And let's talk about that a little bit and before we get into the actual coaching piece.
Yes. So I'm based in Dubai, in the UAE. I've been living here for 15 years. Before this, I was in London and Brussels and Dublin. And as per my surname, I'm Italian, but I left a while back. So I'm more of a global citizen. I have two businesses. So I start with the first one, which is a strategic consultancy. Its name is Inteleki, and it's a strategic consultancy. I serve creative leaders, change makers, cultural organizations, and its aim is to support in period of transition, in moments of what it seems to be great confusion, but with a great opportunity to grow. And when these moments really require a reassessment of the purpose, of the philosophy, of the values, and therefore of the strategy, the positioning, the impact, and the way that these individuals and these companies would relate to their ecosystem. So there is a great importance for me in purpose,
Hmm.
in meaning, and in beauty.
Yes, I love
So
that.
I find these three values very crucial. They express our essence, how we express ourselves, and how we relate to the world and the type of impact we leave. And the second business, it's called Path 58. It's an initiative that focuses on personal development. And the aim really is to bridge the gap between East and West. I'm a yoga philosophy teacher. I'm a yoga practitioner for some years, and I'm a life and a business coach. And I feel there is this beautiful balance that can be created in transforming who we are and going through moments of growth by really by bringing together the ancient wisdom of the East with the strategic mindset and frameworks of the West, whether it is strategic consultancy, whether it is coaching. I really aspire to create frameworks and models of coaching and of supporting individuals in general to to support them in creating a sustainable transformation. And I feel when we aim for a new goal, it's quite important to introduce new concept about ourselves, not necessarily re-envision the whole identity, that is part of it, but just new concepts, new frameworks in mind to support our journey.
Hmm.
And and the tagline that I really like is our inner compass knows the way, and we need to rejiggle the compass a few times.
Yeah, love this. Love this. Okay. And for today, the question that you want to have some feedback on, is it related to both businesses or is it related to one in particular? Just for context.
Yeah, it is about me and about both
Okay.
businesses.
Okay.
Um, because both businesses started and were born at the very same time. Intelliky, being a strategic consultancy, is driven by my 20 years of experience in the corporate world. And I felt I could provide all the knowledge and experience and expertise to individuals and companies. And then Path 58 also was born at the very same time. I had the urge of kind of birthing this. Really this dream of setting up something that surrounds personal development, which has been really a drive for me since day one, and
Mhm.
accompanied with yoga and yoga philosophy. So it was, and coaching, of course. So it was really kind of this, I want both. I want both to lead. I want both to create an impact in the world. I want to express my, the expansion of my soul in that moment in time and say, I want to have both to
Yeah.
run.
Yeah. Okay. I love it. I love it. I want to just touch on IntelliKey and the consultancy piece. When you're working with a company, what is an example of something that they might be struggling with that they would then come, like just one? I know there's
Yeah.
many, but just one
Yeah.
example of something that a company might be struggling with that they can work with you to find solutions for.
Yes. So typically, individuals or company are in their 2 years or 5 to 6 years of their journey, and they realize that something has shifted within the business, being the way that they talk about what they do, their services, the type of clients that they want to attract is very different from the origin. And so they start feeling, well, my pitch is not really the same as 2 years ago or 5 years ago. The clients I really want, they're not really inspiring enough for me to go the extra mile, or these values are not really sitting with me anymore because I feel I'm actually doing something different and I'm
Hmm.
expanding on the value that I bring. And so there is something that doesn't work. So
I love it.
um, it's very much a realization of I've been doing this for some time, whether it was just a year or two, whether it is 5, 6 years, or whether it is 10 years into the business. There is definitely something of not recognizing anymore from the very core, but they realize that it's the core only by looking at the external shell of what they do. So the communication with the clients, as I said, maybe it's not that strong. The deliverables are always the same with some type of repetition, or the type of engagement within the industries are just kind of a little bit bland, and the innovation is not really there, and all the kind of the stuff that works is samey, and
Yeah.
there is no spike of productivity and really creativity brought in, and it's kind of samey,
Hmm.
something doesn't work.
Hmm.
And so I come in and I start from the very beginning, which is to look at values, vision, mission, and how these translate from the leadership. So the leaders of the entrepreneurs, the owners, the directors of the organizations, and then trickle it down into the nitty-gritty of the fullest expression and communications and positioning and impact into the industry, so that their relevance remain there. And I underline relevance because it is important to the positioning and the thought leadership of someone. It's how relevant can I be today for my clients, for my team, for myself, for my future development, for an expansion, whether it is in one market, in many markets, whether it is a shift in the industry or in a discipline, whether it is new communities. It's important to always have this kind of eyes and ears.
Yeah. So working with you, for instance, on this idea of like relevancy, you're going to help them figure out the message behind it, but also just even the direction so that they're feeling more aligned in the business,
Correct.
right? I love this. Okay. Okay, so we're going to move to the coaching piece of it. So I always like to ask, how can I be of service today?
So um, my two businesses are constructed around three services each. And there are two businesses because they serve two different audiences in a slightly different way. I know and I've been told that both businesses, of course, are me in in my holistic and wholesome way. And so in reality, it's one business with two faces, meaning there is
Okay.
this intention behind to transform, grow, and align and impact. So this is clearly the core is how we do this, whether it is a business or an individual, whether it is about positioning into the industry or whether it is more about identifying a new self in troublesome periods.
Mm-hmm.
There are six services. I have many ideas. This obviously stems from great many passions, and I have years of experience, and it becomes very difficult to narrow it down into a sales strategy and positioning for me when I just even introduce myself, or whether I present a business knowing that it's almost like a continuum and it's dipping into different disciplines to achieve the same things. And being all under my hat, I can bring everything, but people
Mm-hmm.
don't necessarily want everything immediately. So, with all this plurality of ideas and passions and how how can I create a solid architecture of sales?
Mm. Okay. So I'm going to give you an answer, but I'm happy with you pushing back if that's not the direction that you were kind of hoping that we would go in, um, or if I'm missing the boat here, okay, in what you're asking. But the idea is being able to succinctly articulate what you do, who you serve, and the results that you get, I think. Would you agree or yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So one of the one of the things that comes to mind for me of hearing you talk about you've got multiple services, those like that is to me, it's like the how, right? The how they're going to get there is that you're going to walk them through this certain process or that, you're going to work on strategy and messaging or whatever in this capacity with somebody in this way. But that feels a lot like I think you've heard me talk about this features, advantages, benefits, right? So I feel like we're focusing on features when we're talking about like which service is going to get them, like what's included in the service. And so what do you talk about? But I think really the bigger message is what is the result and speaking from that place and then how you get that result is somewhat it's relevant, but it's not as important as what the result is. So I could see you doing this in a couple ways. One is you used a word that I think is at least it sparked something for me, and this may or may not spark for you, but this idea of relevance. And I can see that crossover in the IntelliKey when you're working with on the consulting side. And I can also see it in the Project 58. Did I say that right? Project
Path,
58.
path.
Path
It's
58.
okay.
Um, this idea of relevance, because I can see the connection in both, whether it's a company or whether it's personally, is like what is still relevant in my life or in my business, and what should, and if I have a goal, what is relevant that needs to help me get there. And if you're the guide that's going to help me figure out like this idea of relevancy, that feels like a strong message. Now, you could, I don't know if you like that term, totally fine if you don't, but this idea of relevance feels concrete. Or at least for me, it feels like something that somebody starts to, it makes sense of like, is the business still relevant? Is the messaging still relevant? But also on the personal side, again, Path 58 is what I'm spending my time doing, or who do I really want to be? And what is no longer relevant to supporting that? What do I need to shed, or what do I need to learn in order to achieve this idea of like what really matters to me now, right? Or what in the business side, what really matters to the buyer, the client now. And that's what we focus on in the business. And maybe there's been a shift, but I could see that in the personal side too. So again, this idea of relevancy, that feels like an overarching message that you can then bring in this idea of consulting for a business on relevancy, but you can also bring in this idea of coaching on a personal side. I feel like I'm doing all the talking, so I want to touch base with you and see
Yes.
how is this
I
landing?
I think I think it's there. It's
Okay.
partially there
Okay.
because the relevance I think it is interesting because I need to double check. Obviously, I'm a bit of a geek on etymology, but I think relevance comes out as to how we relate to. It's not relational, so but I think there is this part of in Latin that is rel, so there has to be something with the relational aspect of how we deal with. So
Okay.
I'll put it into into the message to be added
I
later,
love that.
but yes, I think you're right. And maybe the excitement is always into as well the exploration and how to broaden the scope and the ability to see. And I feel that these various passions and ideas are there through with a really strong goal of discovering more. And so
Mhm.
maybe I go there with the intention of wanting to share more instead of your benefits is. And I know it's a very maybe a selfish approach because I self focus. I'm more focused on me and how much I can do instead of how much I can serve you, and so how much you can get out of it.
Mhm.
And maybe it's something that needs to be easily noticed and removed because it's a little bit too selfish. But
Okay.
I think the relevance is very much, it's very much there. It's very much at the very beginning. It's clearly when there is this disconnection, something is gone. Something, of course, is not relevant anymore.
Mhm.
And it's just for me is how deep in the business and how deep in an individual with both projects these actors want to explore more
Mhm.
and prepared to inquire. And so maybe for me, this is also um, a point of maybe too philosophical
Well, I
to
do
grow
think,
in business.
yeah, so people will buy results, right? They want to understand the benefits, they want to understand the results. That's what they will pay for. And so one of the other ways that, and this was going to be one of my other suggestions, not that, again, whether you go down this avenue of relevance or some other way that connects the two sides of, the consultancy, but also the coaching, whether it's, the business side or the personal side, having some kind of connector, like a bridge
Mm.
or a framework. Like that's going to be the other thing I was going to say is if you had a signature framework that you take somebody through, or maybe for you it's not a framework, maybe for you it's a philosophy, but that becomes your thought leadership around this. And so this philosophy is then applied, whether we are looking at your business and this certain aspect of your business, whether it be who your new buyer is, or what's the messaging behind the business, or what's the team focus behind the business, right? Whatever that piece is, like the philosophy that could then also be applied on the personal side too, this philosophy. And so there's some steps, right, that you're going to walk through. Now, one of the things that, because you have this broad breadth of expertise on the corporate side and also on the personal side, that those are just like maybe you and I've talked about this before. It's like all of those resources, all of your experience, all of those, it's like each one of those things is like a grain of sand. And you put them all together and it makes up this big, beautiful beach that people get when they hire you. So, as far as like which resource you're going to pull in, like which grain of sand you're going to use in
Mm.
this situation with this client versus in this other situation, we might pick a different grain of sand. But the idea is that we're always moving towards an outcome. And so how you get there, or what grains of sand, or what expertise you bring in, or what philosophy, whether it's, on the yoga side, the Eastern side, or the Western side, that is just
Mm.
your ability to help clients get results, right? So I have an extensive background in NLP. I also have an extensive background in sales. And I also have run my own business now for 12, almost 13 years. I can bring all of those things in to a strategy session, whether it's on the business side, whether it's, the NLP side. But what I bring into each session is I'm going to use any of the techniques or any of the strategy or any of my knowledge or expertise to help the client get the result that they're wanting. But they don't necessarily care that, oh, well, I've never actually had a client say to me, I don't want you to use any NLP techniques. I only want you to use your sales
Mm.
experience, right? Like they don't care if it's an NLP technique or if it's from my experience in sales that I bring into, if it's going to help them get the result. So that is the piece where I would say, and I say this with love to anybody listening, but mostly to you in this moment, is like I say this, that you got to let go of the ego of like,
Mm.
I want to tell you what technique I'm using, or I want to speak to, my knowledge base around this or my expertise around it. It's more of like, sometimes you'll bring in a story, or sometimes you'll say what it's from. And that's only to kind of like bring the experience to life for the client. So to me, it's like a storytelling piece. But
Mm.
other times where you just leave that piece off of like why this works, sometimes people are like, well, why does the brain work like that, Nikki? And I might know the answer. Maybe sometimes I don't know the answer. Um, but I can pull on some kind of a background to bring in like this is why this works this way. But it's less about like the why and more
Mm.
about the result and the how, and focusing on that, because again, from a sales standpoint, that is what people will pay money for is results, benefits. That's what they will pay for. That is more important, I find, for a buyer making a decision than for them to know, excuse me, about the philosophy behind it. It might add credibility to it, but it's like, does it work or not? Is
Mm.
it something that I feel is aligned for me as the buyer, that's what's important.
Yeah, I hear you,
Okay.
and um, I jotted down the idea is to move forward towards an outcome. And
Yes.
I appreciated that client would buy uh, yeah, results and facts and certainties and more quantitative um, measured results and outputs than maybe qualitative, maybe. And yeah, I feel I don't know if this is gets off the tangent, but sometimes when you bring, let's say, value to an exploration, or you present some further findings to a piece of research, or whether you create let's say, a cultural program that create a little bit more of community engagement, you don't know necessarily from the beginning, because of course that's the aim that you want to and that's part of the process, right? It's a solid, it's thorough, it's robust, it's serious, it's professional. Um, uh, it is more onto the qualitative side of life. And so the results and the outcomes, I mean, maybe this is just my philosophy of life, is that we're here to explore and evolve. That's the goal. And I totally agree with you. 1,000% the removal of the ego, definitely. And I remind myself, of course, many times it's the validation is not because you don't have clients. So it's not because of you. Don't just stick to your own ego, move on from it. And so I hear you. It's I don't know, maybe it's just very interesting how when you have worked all your life and your professional life with a company or many companies or just being part of a corporate world, 51% of you comes in with the authority, the backup, the resources, and everything that comes from the company. So you just have to add partially your role, your responsibility, what you know, and yourself. When you are all on your own, started from scratch, this sense of authority, this sense of all the resources and tools that could back you up, they're not as authoritative as a corporate
Okay.
environment.
Let's touch on
And
that one.
s- and so I feel, yeah, I feel, what am I bringing? I'm bringing myself to you.
Yeah.
Yes, it is, of course, through the services, obviously, but it's
Yeah.
all me.
Yeah.
It's everything about me, and I can give you more.
Yeah.
And I think there is this desire of not necessarily impress, but really to connect and give.
Hmm.
And so it's just about, why am I different from someone else's who does coaching because everyone will get clarity. Everyone will get more efficient. Everyone will get better decision making. Everyone will get a sense of purpose. I
Hmm.
think, and I feel the how and the exploration and the learnings and the evolution of the journey is the destination.
Okay. Again, it's I hear you. I hear what you're saying. And I think that that is you leaning into your thought leadership around maybe there's a framework and you can still speak to the different types of philosophies that you bring into the experience that is going to make it unique for the client. That I think absolutely makes sense, but that isn't going to necessarily be the deciding factor for them to purchase. And so you want to think about
Yeah.
that. So there is something about wanting your uniqueness to come through. And that I think is kind of goes back to why having a framework or having a certain type of a philosophy that you attach to your work makes it easier for people to like, okay, I understand that I'm going to be going through a process with you. Um, I think that would be helpful. Again,
Mm,
because we started the conversation talking about being able to bridge this, you've got these two different businesses or really kind of two different types of clients that you're working with. And from a clarity standpoint, how can you talk about it that draws your buyers in, that draws your ideal clients in, whether it's on the business side or whether it's on the personal side, but that they see themselves
mm,
and what they're looking for in your messaging, in the way you talk about who you are and what you do and who you serve. They
yeah.
have to go when she talks about it, when she's describing this, that's me. They have to see themselves, which is why, even I know we've worked on some of your language in your outlines, your flyer. It's like, this is for you when, and this is not for you when, right? Like having even that kind of language
Mm,
just to help the buyer go like, okay, yeah,
mhm,
I relate to this, and or this is not for me and I can just move on. That needs to be, I think, a part of what you're thinking about around the offers and who you're targeting. Is it going to be something where they go, I see myself in this? Because if they can't see themselves in it yet, it's a
mm,
hard sell.
yeah. I hear you. I hear you.
Okay.
I truly feel that your suggestions and your language and your messages and um, really your invitation to push me to see from the other side because it's necessary. Um, how to get closer to the point where it becomes second nature
Yeah.
because I feel I'm still a little bit like, but I'm such a bouquet of flowers. Why do I have to pick one only? Because you
Okay.
just love, I don't know, the
Okay.
jasmine. It reminds you of walking down Capri and you want to just feel summer 2015
Hmm.
again. And there is this kind of sense of me where sometimes I feel divided because of the
Hmm.
differences the different businesses. I know the foundations is the same. I know I'm the same person. I know the language is different, but it's all me.
Yeah.
It's how to, in a split second, when you network with people, is
Yeah.
what to say that is exploratory, that gives space, and at the same time, insight towards actually, it is interesting that she may take me through a process. And one of the issues is if you work in even bringing a certain type of culture within a design firm, or whether it is to bring a leadership program for a government entity, it's a lot of quality, and it's difficult to in one
Okay.
sentence.
Okay. I would say in a networking situation, in that it would be more around the question that you ask and or that curiosity creating response that you
Mm,
have that is going to give you the opportunity to go deeper into the conversation. Because what you want to think about first and foremost is, are you piquing the curiosity of the person that you're in the conversation with, or the reader, or the person at the networking event, or if you're putting something on LinkedIn, like, are you piquing somebody's curiosity enough for them to go, tell me more, or I want to lean in, or I want to read more. And so what is that? Oftentimes it's either a question that you ask, or it's a statement that you make that gets somebody going like, tell me more about that. So this idea of kind of where I started, and we're going to wrap this up here in just a minute, but um and again, whether you use this or not, but if you say something around, one of the things I feel most people are struggling right now is with relevancy. And I have a process to help them figure out what is what is still relevant that they're doing and what is it time to let go of so that they can embrace more about who, like, this isn't a great, this is way too long now. I would want to tighten this up with you a little bit. But this idea of, I think if you spoke again, whether you like this or not, but something around the idea of relevancy.
Mm.
And so it could be if you're talking to a business, business people, and you say, have you ever questioned, or when's the last time you questioned if your messaging is still relevant in the marketplace, or if your offer is still relevant, or if you are talking to a personal person, like like individuals. So from a personal coaching standpoint, if you said, when is the last time you sat back and asked yourself if what I'm doing is really relevant to the life that I want to live? Now that opens the door for you to start to have more of a conversation. And I think that has to be kind of that first step, is we have to pique the interest of the person. And then you can bring other things in, right? You can talk about the way you work with clients, or you can talk a little bit about your background and how it relates. But again, they're much more interested in them, what they're looking for. How is this impacting me? Is this for me? Is it not for me? And I think
Mm.
that is what I want to leave you with today, is to really think about, because kind of using that same word is like, is this relevant to me? I think most of us are asking that all the time, whether it's when we're reading emails, when we're scrolling on social media, we're listening to podcasts, we're like, whatever we're doing to consume information is like, is this actually relevant to me and to my life? And the answer needs to be yes for your ideal buyer to whatever you're talking about.
Mm. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I like the way that you have taken one of the important points that I made at the very beginning and linked it to my thought leadership, which is also one of the things that that I work on and I'm very passionate about.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly important to lead thoughtfully and
Yes.
with impact and legacy, with creating
Yes.
legacy. So it's important. So I think I will work on this, opening more and inviting more curiosity.
Yes.
It's definitely um, something I want to focus on. I think it's preparing for that also removes some of the stress of wanting to say everything and anything in 3 seconds,
Yes. Yeah.
and give the best.
Good.
So yeah, it's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for coming on and saying yes to an on-air coaching call.
Pleasure. Thank
I
you.
I know it requires a lot of what's the word? Uh,
Bravery.
yes, thank you. My brain just like completely lost that word. Um, and I really appreciate it. So I always like to, as we wrap up, a couple
Yeah.
questions. One question is, because this is kind of a new relationship, us working together, what have you found? Is there one thing that stands out to you as being the most helpful so far in the work that we've done together?
Yes.
I didn't tell you I was going
You
to ask that
encaps
question.
you encapsulate, you embody my need for groundedness.
Thank you.
Libra, love philosophy,
Yes.
an idealist. Everything is up there in the clouds. I've got so many pictures of clouds. So I really feel you really have this arts of bringing everything very beautifully and succinctly to yes, but let's be on the ground and eventually the market, the clients, in a way that is very, very gentle and it's not business aggressive, boring, stuff that doesn't speak to me. Yeah, to actually give some foundations to what I need, because otherwise I would be a bit off the tangent, which I like to be off my tangent, but needs are different. So yeah.
Well, it has been so beautiful for me to get to know you, and I just enjoy you
Thank
so
you.
much. Like I said at the beginning, like I fall in love with my clients. I
Thank
already just
you.
adore you and so
Oh,
happy to
thank you.
have you
Same here.
in the society. My last question for you is if somebody's listening and they want to connect with you, what is the best way for them to do that? Like LinkedIn or
Yes, yes,
okay.
LinkedIn, my name and surname. Yes, my name and
Okay.
surname. It's
Okay.
just me on LinkedIn. It would be easier, or Intellikey underscore consultancy on Instagram, and path58.co on Instagram as well.
Perfect. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. For you, the listener, what was your takeaway from today's session? What stood out to you? Was there any kind of clarity around your own process, the way that you're talking about your business? Are you somebody who has multiple businesses and struggle to articulate about them? I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for listening. As always, Eleonora, thank you so much for being here. Have a great
Thank you,
rest of your day,
Nikki.
everyone.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. It's been a pleasure and honor to be here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.